Gogs, Bob, and Craig here to preview match week 8 of the EPL. Two Friday games. We'll come back to those later, but the early kickoff on Saturday is the big one. Everton in 4th against Manchester United in 15th. I understand, Craig, requests from Man United to get the game moved to Sunday was rejected by the Premier League. They're moaning a bit because they just literally got back from Turkey. But it's a big game for Ole. He cannot afford a slip-up. He needs a positive result here, doesn't he?
He does. And I will say this. I think it's definitely a must-win game. Not so much so for his future. I think you mentioned it just now. I think it was Bob, actually, that Woodward is a real Solskjaer man. It's more in terms of falling away from the top. Now, yes, there is the game in hand, but that game in hand, if I remember correctly, takes United up to 3. Takes them up to 12 if they win that 3 points. So it's still not acceptable. It's a must-win game. But just going on the back of that Istanbul match, confidence. I mean, it looked like it was really good after PSG, after Leipzig. I don't think they were terrible against Chelsea, but against Arsenal it was bad. Midweek it was bad. They need a massive reaction, and Ole, Carrick, all those Mike Phelan, everyone in that changing room needs to G up the boys, because it is a must-win game. They need to do everything they can to get that victory. Like I said, I don't think his job is on the line. I think Woodward will do everything he can to keep him, but he'll come under a lot of pressure if he doesn't get a win on Saturday.
Yeah. All right. Well, Anthony Martial is once again available after a 3-match domestic ban. Alex Telles hasn't been seen for 4 games after testing positive for COVID. For Everton, Richarlison, I believe it's his final game suspension. Lucas Digne is available. Question mark over Andre Gomes. He was taken off after an hour against Newcastle. I mean, there is also pressure, Bob Holmes, on Everton here, because Ancelotti's guys need to get back on that winning tip, don't they?
Yes, but they've lost 2 games, isn't it? 2 games in a row after a flying start. It just shows the situation we're in, doesn't it? I mean, we're going from almost game to game, or 2 games. One minute they're heroes, next minute they're villains. I mean, steady on a bit here, I know the games are coming thick and fast, which is contributing to this. There doesn't seem to be any respite at all. I mean, the Champions League doesn't normally go quite as quickly as this, and will continue into mid-December. So there's no time to rebuild. There's no chance to get the guys on the training ground and sort things out. I mean, they're just traveling and coming back and playing and traveling. Yeah. So it makes it difficult to correct some obvious mistake, which you can do on a training ground, a decent coach anyway. So there we are, they're just packing their bags, unpacking, and they hardly ever get to have a full session on a training ground. I mean, they're just having like warm downs and warm ups for the next game. So it makes it harder and harder for any manager to try to eradicate some fundamental fault in the system. So you wouldn't put a lot of money on this changing for Ole. I think we're just going to see this seesawing of performances. And as we said after the Leipzig game, when those substitutes came on late, when he brought on the heavy brigade late on, and you suddenly thought, wow, this isn't a bad squad. There's quite some depth here. And that's still the case. So I think that it is the manager. Really, he's just not got them sorted out. United have good players in most positions, not all, most positions. And I think a Pochettino would sort them out and have them, if not in the top 4, but getting very close to it.
I want to ask an Aston Villa fan here. Gogs, who do you think Man United's biggest underperformer is this season?
Biggest underperformer this season? Oh, that's going to be a quick. I'll probably say Luke Shaw. I don't know why he's still in the squad in the first place.
Just tell us is out.
Yeah, that's probably
there's
why.
no alternative. Literally, there's
Yeah, but still,
Oh, you got
it's
Brendan
still
Williams.
unsure.
got Brendan Williams.
Yeah. I'm curious of why he doesn't start more often. He was quite a revelation last season, though, right?
Yeah, I think he had an injury at the start of the season.
But he's okay now, right? I mean,
he's okay now. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if you ask me, it would be Luke Shaw.
Okay.
What about Pogba?
Yeah.
But I mean, Pogba. I won't bring about Pogba. Everybody's been spoken about Pogba and all that. But what I would ask you, as a Villa fan, I look at that squad. I look at my Villa squad as a neutral, as other fans here. Which squad would you all prefer? Like
Really?
United. Yeah, exactly. That's my point. It would be a United squad, right?
Yeah.
You see what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah,
And I'm trying to add on to what Bob's saying.
It's exactly what Bob said. It's a good squad of players.
It's a good squad of players, exactly.
So, okay, so
I think the issue with United is just you see the very good, and then you see a couple of days later you see a level of performance which isn't quite there. And it's consistency. It goes down to consistency.
Well, it's consistently like that, like how you described.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're right. But I think the big thing for me, the concerning thing for me, is players within themselves getting motivated for the big games. And I looked at the Chelsea performance. I said I don't think it was that bad. I think Chelsea just came to defend really and hit on the counter. But I look at the Arsenal match. I look at a match on the weekend. They were 2-1 down at halftime. You got another 45 minutes to go there, affect the game, and get a result. Even a draw at that stage, you would have taken. It wouldn't be as embarrassing as it was. But there wasn't that reaction that you're looking for. From a team that's down. Even in the Arsenal game, for a team that wants to win at home. It's a big match. It's Arsenal, I mean,
So you're alluding now to the fact that they're starting to down tools for the manager now.
No. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm saying that they're struggling to motivate themselves in the big games when they need to. Like take the game by the scruff of the neck. We need to affect. It's nothing to do. No, I'm talking as professionals.
Yeah, I know, but tomato.
Well, I mean, downing tools
motivate
is
yourself
different.
and then play for the manager.
Downing tools is different. That's not wanting to play from the get-go.
Okay.
And we saw PSG, we saw Leipzig. If that was the case, then we would have seen a thrashing.
All right, let's move on from here. Yeah. It's a massive game, this one now. Everton 4th, Man United 15th. The Reds cannot afford to go into the international break on a downer. It's an 8:30 p.m. kickoff, that one. Next up, Crystal Palace in 13th against Leeds United 12th. I guess it is a bottom half mid-table clash. It's a Saturday 11 p.m. kickoff. Now, Leeds United need to swiftly recover from Monday's 4-1 stuffing at the hands of Leicester City, Craig Marias. It was a stuffing as well. Nobody saw that coming.
No, we didn't. And I go back to the chance early on Bamford had just before Harvey Barnes' goal. And that, you got to feel that was a bit of a game changer. He puts that away. He was a sitter, to be fair. Puts that away, and it's a totally different game. But no, it was a really impressive performance from Leicester. I don't think Leeds were at it. I think defensively, surprisingly, actually, they were a bit of a shambles. But this, I think, will be a good test for them because Crystal Palace, how Hodgson sets them up. They're very solid defensively. They look to hit you on the break as well with Zaha, with Batshuayi, and Townsend or Ayew. So it'll be a good test for that Leeds defence again. But I've just got to go with Leeds on this one. I just think they might have enough to break Palace down and probably nick it. I don't think it'll be a straightforward win, but I think they'll nick it.
For Leeds, I guess for Bielsa, the big question is who to play in that Calvin Phillips role. I know that Rodrigo misses out. He's tested positive for COVID-19. So Leeds have a big question there. For Palace, we know Crystal Palace and their game. I don't know, Bob. It's a tough one for Leeds. It's a big test, this one. If they can get through this, maybe come away with a win, then we're talking, right?
Well, yes. Leeds having a bit of a yo-yo experience, aren't they? I mean, 1 minute we're raving about them and then they come crashing down.
You called that. You said they were going to have that kind of season.
I thought so, yeah. This often happens when teams get promoted because it takes a while to settle. And they've got quite a few new players. And obviously, they haven't played almost all the opponents before. So I think that's why you get these widely varying performances. And Crystal Palace will be a good test. Crystal Palace, I never know how they do it, actually. Somehow. They're one of those teams. They're always there, seemingly higher in the table. When you look for them in the table, you can't find them because they always seem to be a bit higher than where you expect. They don't inspire much. They don't, they don't
entertain. They're not easy on the eye, are they?
No.
Okay, so
they rely
can I just jump in here and add that? So, ergo, Des Corkill says they're not worth their spot in the Premier League. What do you two think about that?
Yeah, well, that's what we're saying. Well, we're basically saying that.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I just think, obviously we know that Des wants to see, 10 goals a match. And, he thinks that teams are obligated to give fans, something like that. But you're going to look at, and you're going to work with what you have sometimes. And, for Hodgson, what is the aim of Crystal Palace? I think for them, it's the bare minimum, which is to stay in the league every season. Just make sure they're in that, top 17 places, and he successfully done that. Yes, it's not easy to watch. Yes, you'd rather do a little bit better than they do. But again, are they good enough to break into those European places? No. Are they a mid-table team? Yes. And I think that's it. I think there are too many teams that are putting big sums of money into the transfer market. Palace aren't one of them. Be happy with what you got. You're in the Premier League. And I think every Crystal Palace fan will be happy with that.
Okay. Now, having said all that, if they had money, if they had backing, could they become one of the teams challenging? And Bob, would they be an attractive prospect for a billionaire to want to buy? They're a London club after all, right?
Well, yes, they would actually. There was talk of this some time. I remember 20 years ago or so, there were big plans. Some big shot.
Jordan just doesn't want to sell ever, does he?
No, but there was talk of that. They've got a massive catchment area, as you say. It is London, and they're at for London. They're stuck out on a bit of a limb. They haven't got a club next door to them like most other London clubs have. So they've got that huge area of southwest London to draw from. And yes, it would be a good buy. I'd just like to change club here a little bit, though, because I read this morning that Bielsa could be considered for the Manchester United job. Now,
surely
how
he
would you
would
feel?
Never think about walking out on Leeds.
I
know.
That
principle.
I don't think he will. Well, leaving Leeds and going to Man United. Jeez.
How about that? Yes.
I think if it does happen, if he agrees, I think Ole might even step aside.
Can I
well,
just say,
it's a mouth-watering prospect, isn't it?
It is.
However you
can
look
I just
at
say
it.
while we're on the subject of Crystal Palace owners, I believe they are owned by billionaires, American billionaires actually. If I'm not mistaken,
with not that much ambition, then Des is right.
Well, yeah, with American owners who are billionaires who are not willing to pump in the funds, and like I said, to make up that bridge or that gap from where they are right now. They're a mid-table team. They got to be willing to part with 100 million or something like that to make those European spots. And then you got to think about those Thursday nights where you're traveling out to somewhere in Europe and then coming back on the weekend to play a Premier League match. It's not for every club. It's not for every club. We have seen as well clubs suffer from that. Because of these European ties, they don't have a great deal of depth in that squad, and it affects the league form. Like I said, I think Palace should be happy where they are. I think the owners are absolutely comfortable with where they are.
Yep.
As long as they keep Wilfred Zaha every season, they managed to get a couple of loan signings here and there. You know, Batshuayi, I think, is a fantastic signing for them on loan.
Yeah.
You know, they'll be all right, and they should be happy with that.
All right, brilliant stuff. Crystal Palace against Leeds is a Saturday 11 p.m. kickoff. That's 13th versus 12th. Next up, we've got Chelsea against Sheffield United. It is Sunday, 1:30 a.m. Bob Holmes has mentioned that Kai Havertz is out, recently tested positive for coronavirus. This Chelsea side, they seem to have found the balance now, clean sheets and goals to boot. It doesn't really matter if Kai Havertz is out, because what it means now is your Hudson-Odois and all that get more of a chance to run out.
Yeah, they get shoved up the pecking order, don't they, automatically? And I don't think Havertz has been all that brilliant, to be honest. No. I think he's underperformed, certainly for 72 million. But give him time. I mean, he's obviously a class player, but he's not quite delivered yet, whereas Timo Werner, a fellow German, has right from the kickoff. I still think Liverpool might have missed out there, you know. But that's another story. Jota is an able replacement. Chelsea, I think they've sorted out the goalkeeping situation, and that seems to have made a big difference.
Yeah,
because
massive.
when you look back to their earlier season performances, most of the goals they conceded were the keeper's fault, and it was 9 times out of 10 it was keeper Ari Bazagaleta. I don't think I said that right. You know who I mean.
Yeah, Kepa.
I should have just said keeper. Kepa. So keeper. The fact that this guy, he came in for a bargain £20 million without great stats, without a great pedigree, and he's kept 6 clean sheets in a row, and he looks the business. He's a big guy, he's commanding, and he communicates with his defenders. He's exactly what Chelsea needed, and I congratulate, it must have been Peter Cech who spotted him, a fellow keeper, because he does, Mendy we're talking about, he does look the business, and I think that a lot of confidence in any side comes from your keeper. If you're worried about your keeper, even if you're a forward, you're never quite sure about things.
Okay.
So I think Chelsea are going to do all right.
I think so as well. It's a big ask here for Sheffield United, Gogs. They can say they've been unlucky. They've had Liverpool and City in consecutive weeks. Now they face Chelsea. They haven't had a win yet. Just the 1 point from the 7 games. If you're Sheffield United's manager, how would you set up for this game? 11 at the back.
Yeah, it's a low block again, all over again, right? I mean, you're right. They played Liverpool, played City. Now they're playing Chelsea, and Chelsea should be lucky that they're coming off a win and a high when the clean sheets to play Sheffield United right now. So yeah, it's going to be tough for him. But at least they're getting these games out of the way before they can start, really looking at considerable points against teams that they actually will manage to get points against. If anything get out of this game is going to be a bonus. I think he knows that pretty much from the get-go. So. And with the confidence really low at Sheffield United, I don't see Chelsea having any problems. But then this being Chelsea, we never know what's going to happen. But alluding to what Bob said, I think that's one of the reasons we were talking about the clean sheets is because the keepers changed. And, the confidence that comes from having a keeper at the back. I mean, when we play football, we know we're Des shouting at us all the time, right, Craig? So, yeah, that confidence you cannot be bought. And with Kepa, there's a mistake waiting to happen every time. And now, like what Bob was saying, that confidence is exuded throughout the defense.
All right.
Or throughout the team, actually.
Okay. Chelsea versus Sheffield United, then Sunday, 1:30 a.m. kickoff. West Bromwich Albion in 18th. Take on 3rd place, Tottenham Hotspur. This is your early Sunday game. Spurs, of course, won 3-1 away at Ludogorets in Bulgaria in the Europa League, Bob. Jose Mourinho, you have to say, is managing this side quite well. He's getting them to perform for him. I know he took 4 off last time in total this Europa League, but I mean, he's tried to integrate them back. He understands. I mean, he's a seasoned manager, right? He knows you need your squad players.
He's a seasoned manager, all right, yes. But the surprise in your voice that he's actually doing okay. I mean, it's shared by everyone. I mean, I think most people were thinking, we're just about ready to write him off if he didn't do anything. I mean, he did okay last season, but no, he didn't pull up any trees, or he didn't actually win anything for a change. But this season, he seems to have started very well. I mean, there were sensible buys that nothing, no transfer records were broken or anything, but there were guys that were just sort of journeymen, really, you know, Højbjerg and people like that, but they've slotted in very well. And with this extra program that they've got, don't forget Spurs played a couple more matches than anybody else. Because they had to qualify for the Europa League. They seem to be playing 3 games a week, and yet he's juggling the squad very well. He pulled off a coup to get Bale back, and they're going along very nicely. And they've even got young players coming through, and he seems to have improved Son. I mean, Son is absolutely playing the best football of his life. He's scoring more goals than ever before. I mean, he rested him last night, but he came on within seconds. He provided an assist. I mean, he does seem to be, you know, is this the third coming of Jose Mourinho? I mean, I think if Spurs win something this season, I think you'd have to say it is.
Well, they will win the Europa League. It's his tournament. He said he's got a 100% record, right?
Hey, he's not Emery.
No.
Okay,
he's got competition there.
Whilst Bob says that he has improved players like Son and even Kane dropping deep, creating and all that, Craig, I'm coming to you here. As with usual Jose Mourinho management style, he does have a player on the naughty step. And at Tottenham, it is Dele Alli. I don't know what he's done, but he
don't think he
walk
does either.
into most sides, right?
Yeah, I think he's probably guilty of just turning up for training, to be honest with you, and maybe in a flashy car or, you know, a kind of hairstyle that Mourinho doesn't really rate. No, it's baffling, really, to be honest with you. We know the quality that Dele Alli has. Obviously, he didn't have the best of season last year. But, you know, is he a terrible player overnight? No. Does he deserve the treatment that he's getting? No. But it's fine, you know, when managers come in, they don't always rate all the players. So if that was the case, you know, let him go out on loan to, I think it was PSG that was blocked in the end. Let him make that move on loan, you know, if he doesn't fit in your plans. But, you know, to kind of put the boy aside and not include him in squads and this, that, the other, you know, it's almost like, you know, he's unwanted part of the squad. You know, the only thing that's missing is that he's not training with the under-23s. So it's a baffling one. Obviously, we don't know the ins and outs of it behind the scenes, so there might be something more to it. But it doesn't. I mean, Dele Alli doesn't come across as a guy that's, you know, going to give you a lot of trouble when it comes to football. In terms of, you know, not wanting to play or this, that, the other. You know, he looks like a guy that really loves football. Yes, he can have that laziness, which we saw in the documentary, which is well documented. But if that was the only reason, you know, he's been ostracized and, you know, kind of like left out of the picture completely. You know, it is baffling. I just want to go touch on briefly on Bob saying that Mourinho has improved Kane and Son. I don't actually think he has. You know, these were, you know, world-class players before he even got there. They were very, very good players. I mean, Kane goes without saying. You know, he didn't find Kane. Kane has been one of the best strikers in the world for the last few years.
200
but
goals
what he has
for
done,
Spurs in 300 games.
Well, he should
stats.
He should have had a hat-trick in the first 30 minutes last night. I watched the first half of it. I mean, 2 minutes, he missed an absolute sitter, you know, from a fantastic ball by Harry Winks. So he should have really added to that. But just going what I was saying, you know, what he has done is he's maybe added a little bit more to Harry Kane's game. in the sense that he's dropping off the front line. You know, he's got fantastic range of passing, which he already had, but we probably didn't see it because, you know, he was that number 9 in the box, which is where Pochettino wanted him. But we're seeing a little bit more, say, versatility to his game, where he can play that 10 role. And obviously that creates the space for someone like Son. So tactically, he's obviously adjusted a few things. But, you know, has he made either player better? I mean, I rated them before he was even there. You know, I thought they were world-class players. They were really very, very good players. So I wouldn't go as far as saying that. But he has rejuvenated Spurs. And yes, can Spurs win a trophy this season? Yeah.
All right. Well, it's a massive ask for West Brom. They've conceded the most goals in the league this season, 16. They've only had one home win in their last 10 in the Premier League. It is a Sunday, 8 p.m. kickoff, West Bromwich Albion against Tottenham Hotspur. Midlands derby next. Leicester against Wolves is 2nd versus 6th. Leicester, well, let's start with Wolves here, Gogs. They need to get over the fact that, well, I mean, they're more rested for this game, for starters. But I know it sounds exciting. Last season, they were both 0-0s.
Yeah, well, No, I think Leicester, I mean, are on a really good high right now. They've back of a really good result on the midweek and everything. And
4-0 against Braga.
Yeah, so I don't think we spoke about it, but yeah, so they're coming off a high. The players are clicking. The players are all playing well. Vardy's back, so you know, I think the aberration against Villa was like I said, an aberration, right? Again, they're finding the form at the right time. The players are playing with a smile on their faces, so it's going to be tough for Wolves against a rampant Leicester side right now.
Yeah, James Maddison is out to prove, Bob, that he deserves to be in the England squad. He's been omitted from the latest squad. He starred in the win against Braga. He also played really well in the league recently, just back from injury, of course.
Yes, I think he's the guy that makes them tick. And it's a bit of a surprise that Gareth Southgate doesn't pick him. I think it's partly because he's only recently come back from injury. Southgate likes to pick players who've been in form for some time. And he does have competition with Mason Mount and Jack Grealish, mainly ahead of him in the pecking order. But he is a good player, and you know, he certainly rejuvenated Leicester, because I thought after a flying start, they faded a bit, lost to Villa, as Gog said. And I thought they were going to sort of become a mid-table team. But they're back up there again now, thanks to these recent performances. Maddison inspired, and with Vardy popping in the goals. And last night you had Iheanacho scoring and looking a bit more of an all-round player. I criticised him, I think, on the show last week as being a striker only, the kind of guy that loiters in the penalty area and doesn't do much else. But last night, certainly, he showed a lot more to his game. And if he can keep producing performances like that on a regular basis, then it's looking very good for Leicester. But Wolves will have the advantage of not playing, which is quite an advantage these days.
Exactly. They've got a good squad of players. Craig, very cheeky. In the lead up to Leicester's game against Braga, their social media said, first of 2 games against Portuguese teams.
Well, they passed the first test comfortably, didn't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It doesn't help that Wolves wear Portugal as their away kit.
No, this is this is a game where on paper it looks like there's 2 attacking sides, but in theory, I'm not so sure that Wolves are that attacking side anymore. We used to, over the last couple of years, I think we were a little bit spoiled in terms of the way that Wolves played, and how they were playing that attacking style that Nuno liked. Doherty down the right, Traore, pace and power, Jimenez in the box, Jota, Pedro Neto, whenever he came on. But, it seems like they've come away from that a little bit, and they've almost gone to a Jose Mourinho type team where they're satisfied with getting that odd goal. They're more about being solid at the back, being compact, and for the quality that they have, they still have a lot of quality despite the sale of a couple of players. It's a little bit sad to see, So, and I think that's affected them this season. There haven't been. I'm not so sure some of the players there are comfortable playing that restricted kind of football. Obviously, you don't have that same attacking threat. Semedo doesn't have that same attacking threat that Doherty did. But, Adama Traore hasn't really played a lot of games either. He's more off the bench. Podence has been probably their only bright light this season, a fantastic player, which is probably what made Nuno, sanction the sale of Jota. But yeah, it's not as free flowing as we expected from Wolves this season. So yeah, I just kind of back Leicester in this. I think they're in a good place right now.
I think
the return of Vardy as well is a massive boost to the team.
I think we've just talked up another 0-0 there. Thank you very much.
Leicester for me, sorry.
Leicester versus Wolves, 2nd versus 6th. It's a Sunday 10 p.m. kickoff. It's Bob Holmes, Gogolin, and Craig Marias here looking at the big one. Of course, Man City versus Liverpool is 10th against top of the table. It's your Monday, midnight kickoff. Both teams, Bob, come into the game on the back of comfortable Champions League wins. We've already spoken earlier on about the fact that Guardiola had the luxury of resting his 2 centre-backs for this one. How do you see this playing out? Will this be the best game of the weekend?
It should be, given the quality, whoever plays. Yes, I mean, they've had some titanic struggles over the last couple of years, and it's a little bit premature to call this a title decider. But I don't see anybody else winning it, frankly. I mean, we've had Everton up there. We had Villa with a 100% record briefly. But now I think sanity is being restored. And I think that Liverpool and City are the best 2 teams in the league by some distance. This one, well, Liverpool, although they've recovered very well from the shock of losing 2 centre-backs in quick succession, which is an absolute double disaster, of course. And they've experimented with replacements, and they've not done too badly. The youngsters, Reece Williams and Nat Phillips. But they're going to come up against City here. They've had a fairly easy passage of the last 3 or 4 games. They've been playing the likes of West Ham, Sheffield United, and then Atalanta in midweek. So it's not been a thorough test of the central defence, not at all. And thanks to Jota mainly, they've managed to pop enough goals in at the other end for it not to be a concern. But I think it still is a concern. When you've got the pace and the passing ability, the slick passing of Manchester City, and you've got a bit of a rickety defence, central defence, I think you're asking for trouble. And I wouldn't be surprised if Jordan Henderson didn't actually play there. He's done it before, not fantastic, but he makes a job of it, and he's experienced. He won't be overawed by the occasion or anything. And I really think, although those 2 youngsters I mentioned have done well, and I think Klopp will sleep a little bit easier for having tried them, they didn't totally convince because they weren't tested. But this is going to be the real test. There's no bigger test than this all season. If Liverpool can get through this, then I think they'll win the league, no question about it. I think they'll win it anyway, even if they lose this. But I still think that to win the league, they're going to need Thiago and Jota, the 2 new signings, to really make a difference. Jota already has. Thiago looked as if he would, but then he got injured. But let's have a season of them, and let's see the difference they make throughout the season. And I think that could make up in a different way for the loss of Van Dijk. I don't think that Reece Williams, Nat Phillips, or Jordan Henderson will do. So I think Liverpool will make up for it in other ways. But this particular game, I've got a feeling that City may edge it.
Okay, well, Naby Keita and Joel Matip were in the matchday squads for Liverpool against Atalanta, so they may feature. It's what? 4 matches unbeaten for Guardiola's guys, 3 without defeat for Liverpool. Which way are you swaying, Gogs, for this one?
Full score draw this one, actually, because I think, to harp on what Bob said, that centre back, the defense is going to be tested like it hasn't been tested since Van Dijk has left. So it's going to be interesting to see. And these players like Phillips and Williams are not going to be actually up to the standard if City play to their full potential. It's going to be a great game to watch. But back to what Bob said, this reason that Liverpool actually finally won the league, is because they finally found a defensive bedrock that they could actually count on, right? And to compensate in other areas, to score more goals than you concede is basically what Bob is trying to say. That this season is how Liverpool are going to go. If they're not going to get I think Fabinho back. I think Fabinho will be back sooner than later. But if they don't find the bedrock with what they did their challenges on their title challenge last season, I don't see them doing as well this season. But that being said, I don't see anybody else also winning the league. So it's up for City or Liverpool, and the rest, it's just. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring draw this game.
It was 4-0 to City when they last met in July. Of course, Liverpool had already won the league, and it was weird circumstances back then. Hangover game. But Craig, with City, they've rested the players. Gabriel Jesus is quite big. Suddenly, they've now got a focal point, a very mobile, goal-scoring focal point up front for them.
Yeah, Ferran Torres hasn't done too bad, actually, while he's been away. I think they experimented with Sterling. It didn't really quite work out for them. And then, they reverted to Ferran Torres to play there, and he's got a couple of goals. But there's nothing like having a traditional striker up there, It doesn't quite do the same job. Jesus scored a fantastic goal midweek. There's still question marks as to whether he is the guy to replace Aguero over the next couple of years, and when Aguero does leave. But he's not a bad player. He really isn't. Just he doesn't get enough goals for me to fill in that void when Aguero's not there. If I was really had to stick my neck out, I think Bob's gone City, hasn't he? Gogs has gone for a draw. I'm just going to make it interesting and go for a Liverpool win. I know that centre back thing is a problem, but I think we're also forgetting City aren't great at the back either. And if that Liverpool attack does get going, anything can happen, and they can almost score at will as well. So Liverpool win for me.
Brilliant stuff. Man City versus Liverpool, Monday, midnight. That one kicks off. That's 10th versus top of the table. Arsenal against Aston Villa is 9th versus 8th. Mikel Arteta's Arsenal won very easily against Molde, although they did have to come from behind. Things are going well for Arteta and the Arsenal, Bob Holmes. Project Arteta, there is a path, and you can actually see it as well.
Yeah, unlike another club we could mention, or we already have, I think. Yes, you get the feeling that this is a guy who really knows what he's doing, not just the way he talks, but the way his team plays. That's the difference. He's transformed them from the rabble that they were under Unai Emery, well, rabble towards the end of Emery's reign anyway. He's made some good buys. Partey looks excellent, and Gabriel. Judicious signings. Partey cost quite a bit, but nothing record-breaking. And he's using the Europa League to blood the youngsters. You say youngsters, but guys like Joe Willock, for example, and Saka. They're on the fringe of the England squad. Well, Willock in the under-21s and Saka in the full squad. These guys are really, really good, and yet they're not regular starters. for the first team. So he has got quite a wealth of talent there. And he's still finding out what his best first 11 is, I think. But meantime, they're picking up points and they're not conceding many goals. Although I still think they might have sold the better keeper. I wonder what Goggs thinks. You got him for 20 million, Goggs. Martinez looks more solid to me than Bernd Leno. What do you think?
I think that's the general consensus that everybody's saying that Martinez. Back to this, if you're previewing the game, Arsenal are on a real high now, and you're right. They have a wealth of talent that Arteta has chances to blurt players at different platforms. And different games.
I want to get a Villa point of view from you. Dean Smith needs a response after back-to-back defeats. You know what I mean? You guys we're talking top of the table for once. I mean, now hard work actually starts. What kind of season are you going to have? This is a big game, right?
It is. Well, we should be well rested for this game. We only have, I think, Traore was doubtful for a groin injury. But back to your question, Dean, I think we saw a response when we were at the Southampton game in the second half. So that's a bit more heartening to see that you're coming back in the fight.
But it was already over, though.
It was. But, to see them, capitulate like that and then to come back to the fight. The Villa of last season would have just let it go. It would have been 7-0 or 8-0 by then, So there is something to see. I'm not looking forward to the Arsenal game, to be honest. They are on a high. They have got parties playing people off the park right now with the talent they have. So yeah, but maybe Martinez will shine and show that what Arsenal will be missing out. But I'm not looking forward to this match, to be fair.
Craig Marias, Aubameyang or Jack Grealish for captain in FPL?
Whoa. This is a tough one. You got to go Oba for me. Penalties, he's on penalties, and Ollie Watkins, as we found out last week, is on penalties for Villa, so that always swings it for me. But in saying that, Oba hasn't really kicked off this season, personally, if you ask me, and Jack Grealish is always a threat. So it's a tough one, but I'm just going to go with Oba just for the penalties.
Just to point something out, Ollie took the ball off Grealish because it was actually Grealish who takes the penalties usually, but Ollie wanted it.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's very interesting.
I wish Grealish took it, though. We have got more points. All right. The other ties, Brighton in 16th against Burnley in 20th. That's a Saturday, 1:30 a.m. kickoff. Brighton have won 3 of the 4 matches on a Friday night. Southampton against Newcastle is a Friday night, at 4 a.m. kickoff. Southampton aiming for a 3rd successive Premier League win for the first time since 2016 when they were under Ronald Koeman. Woo. West Ham in 14th take on Fulham in 17th. Sunday, 4 a.m. kickoff. The Hammers are unbeaten in their last 2 against Fulham. Fulham have won 3 out of their last 10 against West Ham. That is your weekend. And just before we go, a quick look at the Premier League table then. In the top half, you can see Liverpool 1 point clear of Leicester City. Spurs up to 3rd in 14th. Everton down to 4th. It's all a massive weekend. And in the bottom half of the table, Burnley propping up along with Sheffield United, just a point each. Big weekend for West Brom and Fulham. Can they pull themselves away from the bottom half? That's your match week 8 previews then. Enjoy the weekend's football. We're back after the international break. Bye now.